And I really feel like that's I think Sylvester Stallone is an underrated writer. He's an actually fantastic writer. Rocky Balboa was a beautiful movie, but even back when he first started, he really became famous because of his ability to write. So I think that he is an inspiration kind of for me, because I think he was rejected an insane amount of times, just rejected. But he kept taking those hits and he kept moving forward, and look how big he is today. So it kind of is an inspiration for me as a writer, because
Yeah.
you face a lot of rejection as a writer.
Welcome to Relatable Wisdom, the podcast where people share timeless ideas. I'm your host, Wisdom Mccoy, and in every episode we dive into the philosophies, quotes, poems, and life lessons that shape how we live, think, and grow. No matter where you are in life, this show is here to remind you, wisdom is everywhere. Can you start by introducing yourself in your own words, and maybe share something most people don't know about you?
Sure. My name is Mccoy. I am the writer of Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. It's a middle grade book for kids who have disabilities. It's actually more than that. It's really for all kids, but I wanted to write an inclusive book because I have a grandchild who was diagnosed with Dravet Syndrome. So a lot of people know me as the writer because the book is doing pretty well. It's won a few awards and hit a couple bestseller lists. But a lot of people don't know that I'm also a psych nurse. So I actually just got off a 12-and-a-half-hour shift an hour ago. So
Wow.
if I look exhausted, that's why. So
Can
yeah,
you repeat the word you said? You also what? I heard psych now. What's that?
I'm a psych nurse. So I'm a nurse
psych
at
nurse.
yeah.
I get it. I
A
heard
nurse
psych
at a
now. I was like, what's that?
a nurse at a psychiatric facility. So for people who are experiencing mental health issues, psychosis, or depression, we do crisis stabilization. So it's beyond depression. It's more like they're having suicidal thoughts or something like that.
Yeah. Wow. Thanks for sharing that with me. What's a powerful quote you want to share today?
Oh, the quote that I liked was from Rocky Balboa about it's not how hard you get hit, it's how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. And I really feel like that's I think Sylvester Stallone is an underrated writer. He's an actually fantastic writer. Rocky Balboa was a beautiful movie, but even back when he first started, he really became famous because of his ability to write. So I think that he is an inspiration kind of for me, because I think he was rejected an insane amount of times, just rejected. But he kept taking those hits and he kept moving forward, and look how big he is today. So it kind of is an inspiration for me as a writer, because you face a lot of rejection as a writer.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned facing failure, abandonment, and abuse. Would you be open to share one of those moments that really tested you, and how you found the strength to keep moving forward?
So one of the moments that tested me was the diagnosis of my grandchild. So nobody wants to receive a diagnosis like that. She had seizures that put her in the hospital, and then through genetic testing we learned that she has Dravet Syndrome. Dravet Syndrome is considered a catastrophic seizure disorder. It's not like people think of epilepsy. It's more serious than that. A lot of kids who have Dravet Syndrome struggle with a multitude of issues like walking or talking and just even taking care of themselves. Some of them will require lifelong care. So as a nurse, I was familiar with Dravet Syndrome, and I was very much afraid that when she had her seizures that it would come back as that, because one of the red flags is to have seizures at a very young age. And she was very young. So that was a very, very difficult time. But we kept moving forward. So I take her to her therapies during the week. And when my son-in-law is off, he'll take her. Or when the other grandmother's down, she'll take him to my grandchild too. So we work together as a team. And my grandchild is exceeding expectations. So they've actually lowered her down on the number of occupational therapies she has to have. She still gets speech and physical therapy, but she's doing great. We've managed to control her seizures for well over a year now. That's very difficult to do with Dravet syndrome. So we took the hit, with the diagnosis, and we kept moving forward as a family. And I think that was really how it was kind of like a beautiful opportunity for us to come together and really join to help this beautiful child that we have in our lives.
Yeah. Huh. Wow. In your own words, you describe that when life feels like a baseball bat to the score, what's the very first thing you do to find light?
I mean, it can feel like that sometimes. I've lived a very strange life. I think I used to write down like some of the stuff that I've lived through, and I think that people wouldn't even believe the kind of life that I've lived. But I think sometimes you face these hardships, and I try to look at it as like, if you face these very difficult hardships, I sometimes will say it's like going through hell, but you have to come out on the other side. If you face these hardships and you come out on the other side, you come out stronger. And sometimes it's a test for you, getting hit, you take your hit. Everybody gets hit in life. There's no way around it. You're going to get hit at some point in life. But it's an opportunity to develop skills to kind of help you get through to the other side. So for example, if you take a hit and you don't know how to address the situation, you can develop a new skill to do that, so that the next time around you're better prepared.
Yeah. Wow. If you could go back to your younger self during one of those dark times, right? What advice would you give them?
That kind of like what you said, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I think there were points in my life, and I think there are points in a lot of people's lives where things get very difficult and very hard, and sometimes you feel like you're not going to make it through those times. I won't deny that I have had periods where I was pretty severely depressed. The way I look at things now that I'm older is I kind of put a different spin on it, whereas the difficulties help us grow as individuals. So I kind of try to approach those difficult times from a perspective like, how can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? And look at it in a more positive light, and it makes it easier and faster to get through that. So I would give that advice to my younger self. Like, it's not gonna, the dark times don't last forever. Those difficult times don't last forever. You'll get through them, and then you might be stronger for it.
Yeah. Still, we're talking about stronger for it and getting through it. I think we've been talking about the word resilience, but how do you personally define resilience?
Resilience? Is that what you said? Resilience.
Yeah, resilience.
I think resilience is when you experience things in life that are difficult and you are able to get through those difficult things in life. Like, a lot of times resilience comes down to really these skill sets that we develop over time. And the people who do develop resilience are the people who experience the hardships, because you don't really develop resilience if you've never faced the hardships. So those people who have, you know what I mean? Like, if you are a person who lived through poverty, you kind of become resilient to poverty. Like, if you those financial tough times, you become more resilient to it, and you know how to kind of address it or live through it if you have to go through it again. But if you've been a person who's never experienced like that, the hit feels a lot harder, and you have to kind of develop some skills to get through it. You can still, and that would make you resilient, meaning you can find your way through those difficult times. So, I mean, that's how I look at it.
I want us to talk about your book. You've written Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. It's an award-winning fantasy novel. Now, for me, how does your own story of resilience? I'm glad we got that on video. Yeah, she just showed us a cover of the book for those that are listening on audio only. Okay, how does your own story of resilience connect with the themes in that book, or is it completely different?
So I think all writers, when they write, put a little bit of themselves in the books that they write. So I do resonate somewhat with pieces of the book, but I did really write it for my grandchild. I always say it's not my book. It's my grandchild's book. I really feel like it's for her, and it's got a lot in there about her. But I think that there are certain things in the book that I feel connected to. For example, one of the things that the child goes through is she feels isolated and alone sometimes even when she's in a room full of people. And I have felt that way before. I can be in a room full of people and feel like not connected to anybody. And I think that makes you feel lonely, and it can make you feel isolated. Sometimes you feel ostracized. And I think everybody at some point or another kind of feels that, unless you're an extremely social, very, very good at, socializing. I am not that. I am more introverted, so I struggle with socialization. And I think I resonate with that part of the book. But I would say the book overall was really focused on my grandchild, not me. I am writing an adult thriller about a psych nurse. It's still not going to be me. It's fiction. But you put that stuff in there.
Are you sure? Are you sure about that?
Yeah, it would not be legal. Because you have to protect people's medical rights. So yeah, no, I'm very cautious about. And it plus, the psych nurse is kind of like, the psych nurse is almost the most mentally ill out of all. She's the one caring for the patients, but she herself is mentally ill. So it's written from an unstable protagonist. Which was where I was wanting to go for it, because I thought it would make something a little more interesting to read. But I think there's always a little piece of the writer in the stories that they write, even if they're writing full-blown fantasy worlds that don't really exist. There's still a little piece of yourself in each book that you write.
Yeah. Oh, thank you just for making the differentiation. And we can put out the disclaimer out there that this book I'm writing is not about me.
No, nothing I would write. And so I do. It's funny you say that, because I say, when you read this book, it's not about you. Because there's parts in there about her husband, and I'm like, this is not about you, husband. So don't get that idea.
Let's take a quick pause. If you're enjoying this conversation and want more thought-provoking ideas straight to your inbox, join the Relatable Wisdom email list. It's free, quick, and filled with bite-sized insights, inspiring quotes, and behind-the-scenes reflections from our guests. Just head to relatablewisdom.com/join. That is relatablewisdom.com/join, or tap the link in the show notes. And hey, subscribing to the podcast helps more than you think, and it's free. So if you haven't already, hit that follow button wherever you're listening. All right, let's get back to the conversation. Why, despite you putting out the disclaimer, why do I still feel that? Nah.
No, I would never. So I'm kind of a by the book person. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm by the book person. I don't really break a lot of rules. And as a nurse, you have to, protect people's privacy. So I would never, ever use anything from my real personal life. I will use more some of the skills that I've developed as a nurse. Like some of the things maybe the medications that I've learned about, or some of the practices that are done to help people who have mental illness. Those will be included in there to add authenticity to the story. But the story itself will always be fiction when it comes to me, unless, I'm writing a nonfiction book, which I've never done and I have no interest in doing. Yeah, one of the things you mentioned about the character of this thriller you're writing, isn't it published? Which one? The thriller, the psych nurse. No, I actually just finished writing the first draft of it, so now it's in the editing phase. The editing phase actually takes longer than the writing phase. Yeah, of course. Yeah, first draft is you just telling yourself the story. So yeah, now you have to make the story into a form that people can read. I feel like, and I'm going to ask you this question now, just to help clarify the previous question I asked. You've had your own fair share of failure, abandonment, abuse, and those are tough situations, right? Those are really tough moments. Do you think that experience you've gone through
has influenced or probably given you a perspective of what it means to go through a lot. Because this character you wrote about in this book is a psych nurse that's mentally unstable. That's a lot.
Yes, absolutely. I think that when you live a certain kind of life, you develop empathy for those who experience those things because you can kind of understand where they're at. You might not understand exactly where they're at because you're not in their shoes or you don't have their brain or their support system. So there will always be some level of difference there. But I do think that when you experience life where maybe you've had more hardships than others, like grew up poor or maybe had alcoholism in your family and you've seen violence growing up, there are studies that show when you grow up that way, it actually changes your brain. Like if you look at brain scans of somebody, a child who grows up in a violent home,
Yeah.
it changes their brains. So in that way, I think that, it does, it's going to play a part because it actually affects the brain itself, and the brain is the source of your thinking.
Yeah. Well, earlier on, I asked you about the book Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm, and you talked about you writing the book not for yourself but for your grandchild. What do you hope, right? And I know that the book, though it was written for your grandchild, it's not just for your grandchild. It's for all grandchildren out there and all kids out there, right? So what do you hope young readers will take away from your storytelling? More like, what do you hope your grandkid will take away from this book?
So the book was really written to empower her. So the reason why I wrote the book is I had actually enrolled in a program to improve my writing. I wanted to improve my writing for the thriller that I was planning to write, about the psych nurse. And I came across this study that said that there aren't a lot of books out there for kids with disabilities. That kind of lit a fire under me, and I was not happy about that situation, especially because of the fact that I have a grandchild with this disorder or who was diagnosed with this disorder. So when I saw that, I felt like that's not great for kids who are in my grandchild's boat, where they don't feel empowered by the stories that are out there. In fact, they feel separated by them. And I did not like that idea. So I ended up putting my thriller to the side and wrote Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm for her for that reason, but also for other kids who are like her. When I wrote it, I didn't want it to be solely read only by kids who have disabilities. I wanted it to be able to entertain all children. So I wanted to make it like action-packed adventure. The child goes on a quest. They're in a great new world. They kind of explore. So something that all children would really like to enjoy. And I'm actually told that some adults are reading it and really enjoying it too. And I was surprised by that because
Why would you be? We all have
quite
our
a
own
few
inner
adults.
kids. We're all big babies.
We're all big babies. I like that.
Yeah.
So, but what I wanted to do was really empower her, because there's a problem right now in the industry where, like, I think that there aren't a lot of inclusive books out there for a number of reasons. One, some of the inclusive books that are out there are too educational. I'm for education 100%, but if they're so educational, kids aren't going to read them. Some of the inclusive books try to fix the person who has the disability. And that is the wrong message. That's the wrong message, because you're basically saying you're not good enough the way you are. I don't like that. So because my grandchild has a genetic disorder. So most likely it's something she's going to have to live with until we can come up with a better way to adjust our genes. And they are searching for a way to do this, but the vectors are problematic. So, but they are researching how to fix the problem. But it may be something she has to live with her whole life. And I don't want her to feel like she's not good enough because these books say she has to be fixed. I wanted to write something to say, you have this, you're still great with this. And that's kind of what I went for in that book.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for writing the book. And
thank you.
Yeah. Oh. For someone who is listening right now, and right now at the moment while they're listening, what am I saying? I'm just repeating myself. They feel like giving up. Right? It's dark. They've been hit by that baseball bat, and they feel like their head has been shattered into pieces. And what's one piece of advice you'd want them to hear from you right now?
Well, what I would want them to hear is that they are not alone. They do not have to go through it alone. There are support networks out there. And I think that's part of the problem. I think that some people feel like they're completely alone in these difficult times, but they don't have to be. There are numbers that they can call. There are organizations that specialize in helping. It doesn't matter if you don't have money. Some places, of course, you have to pay for them because they're for profit. But there are other places where, like, for example, in the United States, if you go to a psych facility, even if you didn't have insurance, you would still be accepted in so that you can receive the treatment you need. Sometimes it's chemical. Sometimes it may be that you have something chemically going on with you that's making you feel this way. That's why it might be helpful to meet with a doctor to see exactly, is it something that you have to work through therapeutically with like a therapist, or is it something chemical that may be helped through medical means? So you need to kind of connect with the ones that can help you the most and help you through. Now, the fix might take time. It might take time, but even little steps, it's progress. A little step here, a little step there until you can get to where you want to be.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for that piece of advice. And I want us to end this episode with a quick lightning round.
Lightning round, okay.
You ready?
I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. Yeah, probably in the future I'll get a timer so that once we start, I just hit it and there's this background sound. Okay. What's the favorite book that has shaped you?
My favorite book is Catcher in the Rye.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What's one daily habit you can't live without?
Diet Coke. I drink it every day and I shouldn't.
If you could give your life story a title, what would it be?
Resilience.
Okay. Now, what if you could describe resilience with a concrete word, with just one word, of course, what would that word be?
I don't know. I don't know. I would have to think about it. Let's just say well. Tough. Okay.
You didn't get the question. You're giving me a synonym for resilience. As if you could describe resilience with a concrete word, right? Tell something tangible. What would that word be? And you tell me tough.
I don't know. I don't know what it is. You're catching me after a 12-and-a-half-hour shift. Okay.
It's all right. Thank you so much, T.L. Mccoy. And we've mentioned about the Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. And we've also talked about the forthcoming book. Where can we learn more about those books and connect with you?
Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm is sold on Amazon. So all you have to do is type that in. You could also find information on the book on my website, www.blueroundbookgroup.com. And then
can you say that again?
www.blueroundbookgroup.com.
No, the round that can you just spell it out, please? So we'll make sure we get it.
Sure, it's blue round, like the earth, blue for the like ocean, round like the earth, book group. So in the book, it actually it's in the book. That's why it's the name of the imprint. It's Blue Round Book Group. And it's the imprint that released Delilah versus the Ghastly Grimm. It's actually my company.
Wow. That's another part of your story we never got to talk about. Wow, thank you so much. I'll put the links in the description and show notes so listeners can just go directly to the site.
Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
You've been listening to Relatable Wisdom, and I've been your host, Wisdom Mccoy. You've been listening to the podcast where every story, quote, and insight helps you see life a little differently. If you enjoyed today's episode, follow the show on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who loved the conversation. For more inspiring voices and timeless wisdom, visit relatablewisdom.com. Until next time, keep living, learning, and collecting wisdom that matters most to you.